And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we're going to be looking at the major injury updates that we have around the Washington Commanders. We're also going to be looking at some keys that the Washington Commanders defense will have to do in order to come up with a win against the Detroit Lions. And so let's start with the latest injury update news around the Washington Commanders. You can find this on Washington Commanders Sports Illustrated, but it is that Bobby Wagner and also to the kicker Zane Gonzales will both be available for Saturday night against the Detroit Lions. And this is huge. This is what Dan Quinn told reporters about Bobby Wagner, saying that he will play despite an ankle injury that led him to be listed as a non-participant in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we hear Dan Quinn talk about Zane Gonzales and the fact that he was injured. I guess he had an injured hip. He says that, look, there is no concern about the kicker, Zane Gonzalez's hip. He said the team worked out kickers this week, but Gonzales has been a full participant in practice. And so that is huge, especially since Zane Gonzales, he won the game for the Washington Commanders with the kick. And then also, too, with just how huge Bobby Wagner has been for the Washington Commanders. I mean, we talk about Jaden Daniels. Bobby Wagner has been the quarterback for this defense all season. He had 132 tackles, 2 sacks. He had 4 passes defended, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries in the regular season. But he was huge in last week's game. He had 8 tackles, a half sack, a fumble recovery, which was huge for the Washington Commanders as we were able to take care of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so getting him back is going to be huge. And so keeping up with Bobby Wagner and the defense and just talking about how they are going to have to really execute in order to give the Commanders a chance to win this game. Because we know coming into this game, the Detroit Lions and their offense is pretty potent. I think that you could say that the Detroit Lions can get you in many different ways. In fact, I'm seeing that, the Lions are actually the first team in NFL history to have 2 running backs and 2 receivers who have each topped 1,000 scrimmage yards in a season. And so that just lets you know that the Detroit Lions can get you in a variety of ways. And so what will the Washington Commanders need to do in order to get the win defensively against the Detroit Lions? Well, the first thing that they're going to have to account for is really going to be the pace that the Detroit Lions are going to come with. You're going to notice that when Jared Goff comes up, a lot of times, like they kind of go up and down with their tempo. And you'll see as well that sometimes when you see, defenses, they're sitting there, they're doing some last minute checks and things like that. By going fast like that, the Detroit Lions try to really, kind of get in the way of maybe the communication that is going on between the defense. And so the first thing that the Commanders are going to have to do is to make sure that they're all in line with what they need to do from an assignment standpoint. And hopefully they're prepared for this, because that is something that Jared Goff and this team, I think, continue to do and have done really throughout the season, is they try to really get you off of tempo. And they'll do this, and they'll also get you to jump off sides and things like that. So that is key number one, is that the Washington Commanders need to make sure that they're definitely in line with the communication with their personnel groups and things like that. You don't want to get caught with too many on the field and things like that. And so they're really going to really press our defense that way. So we don't want to give up any free yards by giving up the penalty. And we also, too, want to make sure that we're on the same page. Therefore, we are not giving up a huge play. And so next up, another thing that the Lions really like to do is they like to run a lot of misdirection, and they have several different plays out of just basic sets for them. And so what do we mean by that? And so one of the plays that I saw was a fake end around. And so they have a concept where, they might have St. Brown and he's going to the left. And then when they snap the ball, they'll also send the lineman going left. And so it looks like initially like it's going to be a draw or a run play, because you'll see Goff maybe go with a play fake. And then they'll also maybe overload maybe the right side. So as everybody's going left, then you might see like a Sam Laporta. You might see like David Montgomery coming behind him. And so they're kind of maybe giving you the illusion that maybe they might be getting ready to make a play because you see Jared Goff looking that way. Next thing you know, Jared Goff will throw back the way that everybody was going, and it'll be a screen or something like that. And so misdirection is going to be something that the Washington Commanders are going to have to account for. And I think, too, what happens in this misdirection and some of these things when I'm talking about they have different plays out of that, it could be a situation where the next time you're thinking, okay, we know that you're going to go to the right side. They've ran it so many times, and then that's when they hit you with the opposite side. So that misdirection is something the Commanders are going to have to stay disciplined in. And so that means you cannot get out of your rushing lanes. You cannot get out of your coverage lanes. You cannot get undisciplined and just get away from your keys, right? Because that is the moment that you go ahead and you're thinking, okay, my man is not getting the football. Next thing you know, he gets the ball and it turns into a huge play. That is something that the Washington Commanders are going to want to take away, is the huge plays, and it is going to come out of misdirection. So that is another thing that the Washington Commanders are going to need to do. The next up, I think that the Commanders are certainly going to have to stop the run. I think that they did a pretty good job against Bucky Irvin. And I think that you're seeing that the Washington Commanders defense, and I know this really hasn't been said, but what I'm seeing is that the Washington Commanders defense seems to get stronger as the game goes on. I talked about how they were able to really take away Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson in the second half. And in this game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even though Bucky Irvin had 77 yards and a touchdown in this, it was a tough 77 yards. And so I'd have to think that the Washington Commanders, as they go along, they get stronger. And I think that they're a defense that starts to really pick up what you're trying to do with the concepts and things like that. And so I think as you start to tighten this up, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Detroit Lions and you make them one-dimensional. I feel like in the games that the Detroit Lions have struggled in, it's when you take away the run and then you make Jared Goff have to beat you solely with his arm. Because remember, unlike Baker Mayfield, he was a quarterback that would get outside the pocket and make some plays. Jalen Hurts is a player that could get outside and make some plays. Michael Penix, another player that could get outside the pocket and make some plays. And so you have to account for that in the running game. That is not necessarily the case with Jared Goff. He's a player that's going to want to sit down in the pocket and really try to pick you apart there. And so when you take away, that window dressing that they like to do and the kind of run concepts that they want to do, and you start to really slow that down, now that's where you can really start to send additional resources into the secondary. And so that is going to be huge. The Washington Commanders need to get up on the run, and they need to make sure that they're disciplined and you don't get out of your run lanes there. Because as they pull guards and things like that, they try to get you off balance, try to get you into spots to where they can shift you, move you, get their running backs into the second level. So we don't want to see that. We want to make sure that we're there at the point of attack. We minimize these gains. You want to stop the run after the contact, which is certainly what you're going to face with either Gibbs or Montgomery, who is expected to play in this game. And so if the Washington Commanders can do that, I think that they can certainly give themselves a chance to win. So again, you have to address the pace. You're going to have to address the misdirection, and you need to be able to come up and stop the run. And lastly, with the Commanders in the secondary, a lot of the things that the Lions like to do to you is they like to really hit you with a lot of play fakes. And this is going back to when Jared Goff was with the Rams and the same concepts that Sean McVay liked to run. And even though these concepts are a bit complex, because I'm talking about the different types of plays that they can run out of formations, you're going to get a lot of play fakes. And so that means, our corners are going to definitely not. You don't want to take the bait on the first look, because if you go up and you start to bite as if it's a run, they're going to go right over the top. that's where you're going to see players like Jameson Williams. And then also, too, you're going to get St. Brown. These guys are going to love to get you on that double moves and things like that. So you don't want to do that. And initially, as they start to run some of these post concepts and things like that, you want to make sure that you keep your leverage and things like that. And so this is why, I think a lot of the Commanders secondary is certainly going to be pressed, especially when it comes down to, I'm going to say definitely when Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner have to drop into zone coverages, but also too, the pressure is going to be added onto Jeremy Chin and then also to, Quan Martin as well, because if the lines are running concepts and they're kind of overloading sides, it's like you have to pick where you're going to help. And so that is going to be critical there. So Washington Commanders going to have to stay disciplined in the second level. I think that Marshawn Lattimore is going to have a better game. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this recent news. Do you feel like, yes, the Washington Commanders are going to have to address for the pace? Also, too, some of the concepts that I'm talking about defensively. And then let me know, too, with this new injury update around Bobby Wagner and also, too, Zane Gonzales. Is that going to be huge for the Washington Commanders? And don't forget to let me know in the community tab if you guys want to see a live stream. If we get enough votes, then I probably will do so for the Detroit Lions game. And as we always say, go Commanders, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.